I'm here with Andrew W.K. You might know him from hits from the early 2000s, such as Party Hard, or maybe some of his more recent hits off the album The Wolf, or his new release, Close Calls with Brick Walls. Andrew, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Welcome to Brockport.
Yes, thank you. I don't think I've ever been to Brockport. I mean, I've certainly been around the area in the realm of New York State, and certainly live relatively close in New York City. But I don't think I've been to Brockport, and I got to say, it's very, very, very beautiful town. It's really a perfect time to come here. There's such lush greenery. There's so many trees and bushes flowering and blooming.
It's beautiful when in bloom.
Yes.
I'll give you that.
Yes.
You picked a good time to come.
I can imagine in the winter it gets quite cold and very snowy here, right?
2 months earlier, you might have a completely different perception of us.
Well, actually, I love the winter, too, so I would have been psyched on that as well.
All right. Well, you seem to be a pretty happy guy.
I'm happy-go-lucky. It depends. I mean, earlier today, this morning, I was having some issues with a computer, the computerized box, the computer, and the electronics or something was funny, and it was really riling me up. And I said, I can't believe this. Here I am, this happy-go-lucky guy, having some fun, just partying hard, and a computer is going to bring down my mood. So I'm as susceptible to those mood swings, I guess, as anybody.
I guess so. You strike me when you come in, a happy guy, like you said, just partying hard, having a good time with your life. Something I wanted to ask you, though, is when I Get Wet came out, I certainly wasn't the only one. I'm 12 years old, and it's...
Wait, you're 12 years old back then.
12 years old.
Okay, I was going to say, I mean, kids look older every day, I guess. I mean, they're developing younger, but I would be really blown away if you were 12 now. Okay, I'm sorry, I was confused.
I wish when I was 12 I looked like I was a little scrawny 12-year-old. But I Get Wet was, one of the things I had constantly rotating in my Walkman.
Nice.
And
thank you.
I think this perception came of you when that album came out, because here I am, a 12-year-old, and my favorite song is Ready to Die. And I'm carrying around this CD with a guy with blood all over his face.
Wow.
And my mother wasn't too pleased.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But,
I mean, did she actually say something to you?
She was never one to voice her opinions, but, the frowny looks, the motherly...
Like that Marge Simpson?
Yeah, yes.
Like, I don't know about this. Yeah, well, hey, my mom, I think, felt the same way. But the good thing about moms, or at least what I would call good moms, is that they usually have some amount of trust that their young people are doing what they enjoy and taking care of themselves. I mean, of course, the mothering instinct is there to have the mom take care of the child, but at some point, especially for a 12-year-old, you got to let them kind of be their own person a little bit. And I'm so glad that you wanted to be the kind of person who listened to Party Hard and carry around that CD. And thanks for your mom for maybe having some concerns, but not stopping you.
I think... what that kind of brought to my mind was the perception of you and what your music was completely different than what it actually was and what you actually stood for. Because when you listen to the music, it's good, fun music that, I mean, I've never really met anyone who's listened to any one of your songs and didn't really enjoy.
Really?
But then, really, I don't talk to a lot of people. So that might be...
now I understand.
That might be one of those things where, that's just me. But the kind of perception of you back then and what you actually are or were seemed to be different. Did that ever bother you at all?
Well, I mean, when you first come out, when you first appear on the scene as an entertainer, or I guess as anybody doing something and presenting it to the public, there's that time where people have to get to understand you or get to have some experiences with you, to have something to form an opinion on. And before that time, people are going to form opinions based on whatever information they have available. And as far as my story, when I came out, I didn't have a lot of backstory. There wasn't a lot of information. In fact, I made an effort to try to sort of obscure or cover up that backstory about my life for various reasons. And I mean, I think that led some people to maybe what we would call jump to conclusions or make what we might call snap judgments. And some of those were nice and maybe some of them were not so nice. Either way, though, I'm still going, and I'm happy to give people that much more time to form an opinion about me, try to make up their minds.
You mentioned your past background. One of the things that strikes me is you type Andrew W.K. into Google. And of course, you'll find your website, MySpace, official things, a few unofficial things, your Wikipedia page. But then it's almost as if you typed in JFK into Google. Because there's all these conspiracy theories about you. My question to you is, how does it feel? It's got to be somewhat surreal to have people actually questioning who you are.
Well, that actually goes back to what you were saying from the beginning. I think that there was a lot more speculation back when, or it seemed to me, back when I first came out in 2000, 2001, than there is now. But in some ways, I guess, the more time someone has to spend with questions, the more answers they can come up with. And there have been a lot of different answers about who I really am or how I got started in show business and all that. And I see what you're saying. I mean, over the years, some of the rumors or some of the speculation has really gotten a lot more loopy. And I just try to stay focused on, I guess, what people... I mean, it's hard. It's been hard. Yes, that's the easy answer. It's been weird.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Your new release, Close Calls with Brick Walls, which is paired with Mother of Mankind. Now, this album, Close Calls with Brick Walls, isn't exactly a new one. You released it 4 years ago out in Asia. Why did it take so long to get that finally released over here in the U.S.?
Well, there was a variety of mainly business issues. And, I mean, I'm glad that it came out at all back in 2006, like you said, originally in Japan and South Korea. But my plan and my hope, of course, was to always make it available worldwide. And it just happened to take these 4 years for business, for contracts, for various situations that I had found myself in since 2005 to work themselves out. And actually, the great thing, I mean, there were certainly moments years ago when I was very freaked out and concerned just about my career, about how to deal with these complications, these issues. It was people I was working with that were supposed to make my life easier. Sometimes were making it more complicated. But now that's all been resolved. And the beautiful thing is I feel like I'm in a better position now, having gone through that turmoil, having gone through that ordeal. Now I feel better off. And I guess that's that old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Your newest release that I guess was the latest one you've actually completed, 55 Cadillac, might surprise a lot of people. It's all improvisational, if I'm correct, piano pieces.
You're absolutely right, yes. By the way, I got to say, you've done a very good job on your research, and I really do appreciate that because, like you've mentioned, there's been some confusion out there. There's been some questions about me or what I've done, and I really appreciate you having the information, the straight facts to talk about. Yeah, so 55 Cadillac is a solo piano album I put out last year, I suppose, and that was the first time I've ever made up an album just on the spot like that. I mean, it's not really written out songs. It's just me sitting down and playing piano and seeing what would happen. And that was actually, to me, very, very scary and very frightening because normally when I make an album, I would really painstakingly assemble each song and overdub all the instruments and build it up over many, many, many months of work. So just to sit down and play for 5 minutes and say, okay, that's a song, that was shocking and freaky, but that was the point of the release. So hopefully it's entertaining for someone to listen to my terror on tape.
Was it something you always wanted to do, a piano album like this?
It absolutely was. Piano was my first instrument that I ever learned. Started lessons when I was 4.5, and really all my musical experience and my whole foundation of being a performer comes initially from that piano experience. So it was always a dream for me just to sit down and play. I mean, that's what I used to do all the time and record myself when I was a much younger child. And I wanted to see what would happen if I could return to that state of mind as an adult. I mean, it sounds to me a bit like a child playing, but I wanted to do that. It wasn't about being impressive so much. It was just about making a recording of a man playing piano with total freedom. And that actually was also the first time I ever was able to make an album with total freedom like that. It was an in-between space during that sort of those legal battles I was talking about earlier. There was this opening where I thought I could get away with putting out an album like this, and I did basically, but that album, the solo piano album, 55 Cadillac, is what sort of was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, and found me in a whole mess of trouble, which then resolved itself. So in some ways, that piano album made things worse, but then